The team traveled to EMU last night for some action and had another nice road win. The final score was 68-50. What led the team to victory last night?
Yeah, well, looking at the stat line, it's very clear who led this team to victory. You had Telma, this Augustdaughter, with 25 points. You had Anna Kilfane with 23. The rest of the team combined only scored 20, so they absolutely carried the team. Also had 17 of the team's 37 rebounds. Only 2 bench points for Ball State in that one by Alex Richard. So, yeah, clearly that was a game that was really the story of 2 players.
Definitely was a key factor for this game.
Yeah, there was one other star player, maybe not star, but standout player for Ball State, and that was on the defensive end. Marie Kiefer, 5 steals and 3 blocks, made a huge impact, and she was a big reason why Ball State held the Eagles to just 33% from the floor.
Welcome back. The men's basketball team has been absolutely packing the nest and pulling off some great dubs, hoping to see the same energy against Bowling Green in Worthern on Saturday. What is it going to take from the team, guys?
Yeah, so this is kind of the same story as the women's team, what we talked about, maybe kind of a less extreme example, but Ball State, 17-7 overall, they have 4 straight wins. Bowling Green, 10-14 overall, they have 4 straight losses. So, yeah, a hot streak and a cold streak for these 2 teams. But yeah, Ball State, if we go back to the last time the 2 teams played, January 31st, Ball State won that one 69-60. So again, just need to kind of replicate that.
In the defining moments of the game when they need to.
Yeah, and Ball State, as I said, they won that one 69-60, January 31st. That was on the road for Ball State. Meanwhile, BSU is 9-1 at home. They are, and Bowling Green is 4-8 on the road. So there's a clear edge for the Cardinals there. But yeah, back to that last matchup. Peyton Sparks kind of had an off night, only 2 of 3 from the floor, 5 points, 10 rebounds, and he had 4 turnovers in that one. So he didn't even have a big game, and Ball State was still able to win by 9. Jerron Coleman, 19, Jalen Sellers with 11 points in that one. And interestingly, Ball State shot 23 of 46 from the floor, while Bowling Green shot 23 of 56 from the floor. Now, that's good shooting percentage for Ball State. What's not good is the amount of shots they're getting. So that was mainly due to turnovers. Ball State with 14 turnovers, Bowling Green with just 9. So you would like to see them clean that up.
The Cards sent EMU home with a tough 91-90 road loss this past Friday. This game deserves some serious hype if you ask me. They did not stop the sweep there, though. Tuesday night, they left it all on the Central Michigan hardwood and brought home a 65-61 win. What went right for the team that led them to these victories?
Yeah, well, first of all, against Eastern Michigan, I've got to say there was a backcourt violation at the end. I don't know how they missed that. That really got on my nerves. The announcers, so yeah, I wasn't at that one, sorry, but the announcers even didn't notice it. So I don't know how that happened, but whatever. But really, in both of these games, the Cardinals have just come through when it's counted, and that's kind of a cliche thing to say. So I want to actually demonstrate how that's happened. So at the end of the second half, they allowed 2 straight scores, which tied it up. And then but then at the very end, when they really needed to, they forced a tough shot from Imani Bates, one that he ended up missing, leading to it going to overtime. So they at least got it there. And then in overtime, for a bit, they couldn't stop Bates, understandably so. He scored 4 straight buckets, 3 twos, and then a tough 3-pointer. But, one player scoring can't go forever. And so you have Demarius Jacobs score with 69 seconds left. And then you have Peyton Sparks score with 15 seconds left to win the game. And then they got the ball out of Bates' hands, leading to that big block from Sparks. And that is how you close out a basketball game.
You did. All you had to do was stop Bates, and that's what we did.
Yeah, and talking about that game, they out-rebounded EMU by 6. They won the assist battle 18-10. So those are some other good small things to look at. They did have 5 more turnovers. Kind of want to improve on that, but overall a good game. All 5 Ball State starters scored 13 or more points. So that's some consistency right there. That's some good, solid scoring from every starter. I mean, the bench didn't do as much as you'd like, but in general, that's a positive for Ball State. Peyton Sparks, as we know, had a big game: 22 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks. So I know. Yeah, you were touching on his big game. Those stats are phenomenal. 4 for 11 free throws is not as phenomenal, but still a fantastic game from him. And yeah, Imani Bates went out and he did what he does. He scored 35 points. And it didn't matter. Ball State still got the victory.
Since we did.
Moving things over to men's tennis, the team will put their rackets up against the Butler Bulldogs tomorrow. What do you guys think this matchup will look like?
Yeah, so with tennis not being as popular, we don't talk about that one as much on here. I do want to kind of update, the audience on what's been going on. So Ball State is 2-2 after, last year they went 10-11, and the COVID year they went 17-5. So yeah, early in the season, but they're 2-2. They won their first two, beat Eastern Illinois 7-0, of course, and Illinois State 4-3, and then they won their last two. They lost their last two at Indiana 2-5, and then at Michigan State 3-4. So with doubles, they've whoever won the doubles point won the match every time. so that could be a key for that one. Meanwhile, Butler's a little farther along in their season, or further along, I should say, 5-4. They're coming off a 4-0 win over Findlay on Saturday. In total in doubles, they're kind of weak in that point, 11-30 total, but they've actually won 5 of the 9 doubles points that they have played in. But I think the most interesting thing to do, with these teams that on paper are fairly evenly matched, is to look at the common opponents. I'll let you talk, Blake. We can do that afterward.
They do have flaws, and we just have to look for Ball State to exploit them.
Yeah, and as I was starting to say earlier, common opponents is probably a good way this early in the season to judge how it should go. And they actually have 2 of them, even though Ball State have only played 2 matches so far, or 4 matches so far. So you have Illinois State. Ball State beat them 4-3, and then you have and Butler also beat them 4-1. Then you have IU. Ball State lost to them 2-5, and Butler lost 0-4. So take from that what you will. I think this matchup could go either way. Should be a really interesting one this week.
Great point.
All right, and as for some key players, who should we be keeping our eye on?
Yeah, so Ball State so far this year doesn't really have a consistent scorer or a consistent winner, I should say. I mean, your number one has been Nathaniel Webster for most of the time. In his slot, he's 2-1. They also put Danilo Kovacevic in the number 1 spot for 1 match, and he lost that one. In the number 2 slot, you have Vince Orlando's 1-2. You have number 3 spot combined, they're 2-2. So their best slot is the number 6, which has been 3-1 so far, with Peter Petrovic 2-1 in that spot. So they haven't really had any consistent star or any player in singles or doubles, that for that matter, any slot that has been able to consistently do really well. Meanwhile, for Butler, they're kind of in the same boat, but they do have, Thomas Brennan he's their number 1, and he's 8-4, also 3-1 when he was at the number 2 spot. And then you have Alvaro Huete Vadillo, who is 8-3 at the number 4 spot, and 1-0 at the number 5.